The injury of Reece James has been another nail in the coffin on Chelsea's season, and if that wasn't enough, literally within minutes of that news coming out, the news broke that Chelsea have received their charges and their punishment for the 75 breaches of financial regulations since 2012, in the same vein of the way Man City are facing 115. We know what it's about, we know what's happening, and today we're going to get into it. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC, and it is not a boring day to be a Chelsea fan, is it? It's a frustrating one for sure. Things just keep it's just that someone's just pounding on us, man. Someone's just pounding on us over and over and over again. But we moved. This is just what it is like. This is what we've got to deal with, and this is what we'll do. So, guys, before we get into it, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing this video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. So, no beating around the bush or whatever, we are just going to get into it. I've basically compiled some bits of text, and I've researched the situation basically to try and find exactly what it is that we're dealing with, exactly what it is that we're talking about. So, without further ado, let's go. On March 16th, 2026, the Premier League announced that Chelsea FC has been hit with a record £10.75 million fine and an immediate 9-month academy transfer ban. We're going to get into all of this in a bit. The sanctions follow two separate disciplinary processes initiated after the club's current ownership, led by Todd Boehly and Clear Lake Capital, voluntarily self-reported historical rule breaches discovered during their 2022 takeover. So, already stuff to break down, right? The fine is, the fine and the academy ban are the two big ones, essentially. There is a suspended transfer ban. We're going to get into that in a minute. What's really important context-wise, right, to understand about this? The first thing, none of this has anything to do at all with the UEFA sanctions, right? The fine we paid at the back end of, or the start of this season, for basically going over our squad cost ratio, which meant we had to sell loads of players in order to be able to register any new players for Europe. This is all completely separate to that. What we're talking about today, the 75 financial breaches, are basically exclusively under the Roman Abramovich era. And when Clear Lake and Todd Boehly took over, they went through the books, they found all of these in the books, and they brought them to the attention of the Premier League. So why that piece of information is important is our sentence, which we'll get into a little bit later, is largely reduced from what it could have been because Chelsea and the board and Blueco have been compliant with the Premier League and offered up all of the information and holding their hands up. Now, it's a lot easier for Chelsea to do that because the new owners had no part in any of this. With Man City, the reason that this has been dragging on for so long with Man City, and the reason we still don't know what's going on, is because Man City have been fighting it tooth and nail. They absolutely declare that they are innocent, and these 115 charges, they've literally said we haven't done anything wrong, and they are fighting to prove that the Premier League is in fact wrong for fighting them in the first place. So inherently, that has made their battle more difficult, right? So if Man City would have done what we'd done and come forward and said, we made all these breaches over this time period, they're looking at like a massive points deduction. There's been talk about titles being stripped and stuff under the era. So what we are talking about today is the punishment that Chelsea are going to receive, and it has largely been reduced because Blueco and Clear Lake brought this to the attention of the Premier League in the first place. So that's all really, really important. So we'll move on to the next slide. So the breakdown of the sanctions, right? So we're going to go through it all. The total fine, £10.75 million. This is the largest fine in Premier League history, nearly doubling the previous record of £5.5 million. Now, I'm not sure that will have been for probably either Everton or Nottingham Forest, because they both had points deducted last season as well, didn't they? 10 mil relates to undisclosed payments to agents and third parties between 2011 and 2018 under previous owner Roman Abramovich. 750,000 relates to a separate investigation into academy registrations breached between 2019 and 2022. So the fine essentially is broken up into first team signings, and first team deals that were made between 2011 and 2018, and £750,000 is purely just for us. There's probably something to do with after Brexit happened, because there was all of the changes and how work permits and stuff worked, and there wasn't free movement of travel and stuff anymore like that, and we were probably just signing players in the same way as when we had freedom of movement under the EU, and that was only between 2019 and 2022. Immediate academy transfer ban for 9 months. Effective immediately, Chelsea is prohibited from signing academy players from other Premier League or EFL clubs for 9 months. So, in a nutshell, for the next 9 months, we are not allowed to sign academy graduates from English teams, essentially. And that is exclusive to English teams, that we can still sign young players from abroad, which isn't really going to touch the owners at all, is it? Because that's basically what we've been doing all this time already. But I guess it might mean that you see some of our existing academy players being given a bit more of a shot. So, exceptions. This is a really important bit as well. This ban does not apply to overseas players, like I've just said. International registrations, first-time registrations at the under-9 level. So, anyone under 9, we can still sign in the UK. Or existing player contract renewals. So, any of our academy players that are with us now and have been bought from Premier League or English clubs in general, we can renew their contracts as well. It is exclusively about not being able to register academy graduates for the next 9 months, which isn't a huge amount of time when you think about it, really. Okay, so this is the big one, right? This is the really big one. The suspended first team transfer ban 1 year. What does that mean? A 1 year ban on signing senior players has been suspended for 2 years. Now, it says 1 year and then it says 2 years, so I'm not sure where we are with that. This means the club can continue signing first team players unless they commit further breaches during this period. So, I think the reason that isn't anything to be worried about is we were only being investigated up until 2018. So it stopped happening in 2018, essentially, because it was only between 2011 and 2018, which is crazy because that's when most of the trophies came. But that is just how it is, do you know what I mean? So we are still allowed to buy players. It is a suspended transfer ban. And if we make these mistakes again in the next 2 years, so we'll get into the specifics in a minute, the nature of the breaches, but that's kind of where we're at, do you know what I mean? It is not going to affect our transfer window. We are actually still in the same, other than the academy graduates from the UK, we're going to be allowed to operate in the transfer window as normal. And like I say, this has no bearing or connection at all to the UEFA sanctions that could prohibit us from registering players in European competition. So this is purely a Premier League thing, right? But yeah, and again, so it looks like we've got away with it, really, doesn't it, to be completely honest? And don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people are not happy with the board at the moment, but if this was still under the old regime with Petr Cech and Marina Granovskaya and under Roman Abramovich, if they would have fought it like Man City are, then we could also be looking at much, much more serious penalties. 10 mil is a sniff for Chelsea at the end of the day. We all know that. We sell an academy graduate and then you've got that on the books, it's fine. And the academy thing, yeah, okay, maybe that derails a couple of plans to bring in homegrown talent, but it's not going to prevent us from developing and extending contracts of our existing homegrown talent from the academy, and we'll still be able to buy players under the age of 9 for the real grassroots stuff, and we'll also be able to still go abroad and buy young players to bring into the academy that way, because they can only control what goes on in the Premier League and the EFL, essentially. So yeah, and like I say, unless we go out and do this again, do you know what I mean? I'll get into the nature of the breaches in a moment. We're going to be fined for the next 2 years. So look, it really looks like we've gotten away with it. So the nature of the breaches, what was it for? The investigation found that between 2011 and 2018, third-party entities associated with Chelsea made secret payments totaling roughly 47.5 million to unregistered agents and other parties. These payments involved high-profile transfers, including those of Eden Hazard, Willian, Samuel Eto'o, Ramirez, and David Luiz. And it says, including those, okay, so maybe that's all of them. But yeah, essentially, so what we're talking about here is when we got the Eden Hazard deal over the line, and we've known this for a little while, we only paid like 30 mil from Lille for him. Do you know what I mean? And what happened there is we gave him money under the table. We gave his agent money under the table. The same for Willian from Shakhtar Donetsk. Same from Samuel Eto'o, although I can't remember. Was it Inter? No, where did he come from at the time? I can't remember. Same for Ramirez and David Luiz as well. Now, I don't know if that was the first or second time we signed David Luiz, because we bought David Luiz back from PSG, but that was, it was before 2018, wasn't it? So it's probably the first one. I imagine if you think about, we're looking at these signings, the majority of them are probably before David Luiz's second spell. So I would imagine these were all quite early on. Crucially, the Premier League determined that even if these payments had been properly disclosed at the time, Chelsea would not have breached profitability and sustainability rules. So that's the stinger here, is basically what this is saying as far as I'm aware. I'll just read it again quickly. Crucially, the Premier League determined that even if these payments had been properly disclosed at the time, Chelsea would not have breached profitability and sustainability rules. So that is saying that we would have been fine if we'd have announced it all properly, because we'd have been within the realm of PSR. So the real stinger about the way that is worded there is, we didn't even need to. It was ridiculous. Like, if that's the case, that's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? So basically, this might have happened and we didn't even need to make it happen. The club's proactive self-reporting and exceptional cooperation was cited as significant mitigating factors that prevented harsher penalties such as a point deduction. So that's the massive thing here, right? We are getting away with this scot-free. Essentially, these 75 charges, the 10 mil fine, fair enough, but we're not looking at a points deduction. We're not appealing anything. We're not fighting anything. We have provided all of the evidence necessary in order to verify all of these breaches and all of this information. And we have been sanctioned, but the sanctions aren't going to hurt us too much, man. Like I say, the 10 mil is an absolute sniff. That's going to be absolutely fine. The academy thing, for 9 months as well. We're not even talking about a whole season, are we? So we're literally talking about until next January, basically. So up until halfway through next season, we're not going to be able to sign any English player or Premier League players, Championship players, League One players, League Two players for our academy. And we have a transfer ban suspended for 1 or 2 years. It couldn't really make its mind up in the document there. But either way, let's say long term, as long as we don't buy a player and pay his agent under the table again in the next 2 years, then nothing's actually going to affect us. So we've been really lucky here, man. We've been really, 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 really lucky. Because like I say, if we had Marina Granovskaya and Petr Cech, and we still were under the administration that had perpetrated these breaches, that's a different story, man. That's a real, real, real different story. That's like, it's insanely different. It's insanely different. So look, in that case, look, be blue co out all you want, but they've done us a favour here. Do you know what I mean? They've literally done us a favour. Man City are talking about a 40-point deduction, which could potentially see them relegated next season. It's possible if they don't have a good enough season, because you've got to think, if they get a 40-point deduction before the next transfer window, even if they win the Premier League this year, a lot of those players will leave, because Erling Haaland's not going to be like, what am I even going to bother for? Because there's zero chance of winning the Premier League, because you're going to come into it with a 40-point deduction. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that we've avoided a points deduction is massive, absolutely huge, because we saw Everton get a point deduction. We saw Nottingham Forest get a points deduction. It was only like 4 to 6 points and they were reduced from like 10 or 12. But even so, every point matters, doesn't it? Especially where we are at the moment. And we will have broken a lot more rules than these teams had. And like I say, based on what we're looking to Man City, we could have been hit with a 25 to 30 point deduction, which at the very least would have seen us somewhere above a relegation scrap and definitely sitting in mid-table obscurity for next season, even if we were the best team in the league. Absolute wild madness, this whole thing. But for us, it's over. What that means, next up, Man City. Theirs is still going to take longer, because they are going to fight tooth and nail. They are going to appeal absolutely everything. But I can only imagine Blueco, the Chelsea board, will be accepting these sanctions that have been put upon us very, very graciously. So guys, that is my explanation of what's going on, what the breaches are, what the punishments are, the nature of them, the players that were involved. Tell me what you think about it. I think we've gotten away with it scot-free. I think this is framed as bad news, and a lot of the media will make it out to be bad news, but I think in reality, this is fantastic news. Now, if I've misunderstood anything, if you guys understand the situation better than I do, get down in the comments and tell me and let me know what you think is going on. Can't wait to talk to you about it. I'm gonna do a little bit more about this tomorrow, but I'm just going to wrap this video up with a moment of silence for Captain Reece James. What an absolute nightmare, mate. Literally got PSG tomorrow. We got such a difficult run in for the end of the Premier League season, and we are going to be without him for crucial games. And it's a hamstring injury, which is the same one that he's been having for all of this time. So I can only hope that this is very, very, very precautionary and it isn't a serious injury, but they are treating it seriously in order not to exacerbate anything. I'll look into it. I'll deep dive. I'll get more into it. Let me know. Obviously props to Reece James. Like, obviously my heart goes out to him. He must be absolutely devastated. But let me know what you think about Reece James's injury in the comments as well, guys. Nice one. I hope you all have an absolutely wicked day. I, for one, think this is good news. I'll catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.